Yeah. So, hi, Bent. Thank you for coming on the show today. This is
It's great to
Ahmed.
be here.
This is Ahmed from Gaper. Would you like to share your experience about Qnary and what do you do?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thanks a lot, Emmett, for having us involved in your podcast. Qnary is a business that I started actually 9 years ago. It's our ninth birthday on the 8th of November. So we are 9 years old. And we're a business that focuses on the online presence of executives. The company is founded on a thesis, which is that your online presence matters. It matters because before somebody meets you, they look you up online. After they meet you, they'll look you up again online to find out if that information is what they want to build a partnership around. Certainly, in the world of COVID, and we're living in a pandemic now, your online presence matters even more now than ever before. What you look like in search, what you look like in social media, the content and thought leadership content that you're generating, and then also kind of the strength of your network. And so we have a platform that supports that exercise for executives. We're from New York City. We started the business here. Most of the team is based in the New York area, but we have offices in Spain as well as in Australia that operate as kind of regional hubs for the company.
So that sounds very exciting. So, how did you come about this idea? Right? Were you meeting a lot of executives, or were you at the same stage at some time? Where did it
Yeah,
fit?
sure. It's a great question. I mean, I started the business. I spent the majority of my professional career as an executive in advertising agencies and digital media companies, and I was the CEO of a company that was part of the IPG family, the Interpublic family of agencies, and at the time, what I realized was that there were a lot of ad tech tools that were helping out brands, but there were really very few things that were helping out individuals make the most of their online activities. And so, um, you know, 8, 9 years ago, there were, if you looked at what was happening with Facebook and Twitter, on LinkedIn, all of the social platforms were ratcheting back the reach that you could get as a brand. It was becoming more expensive to grow your audience, and so I saw kind of an opportunity to shift the focus to individuals, because one of the things that never is talked about is individuals get 8 times more engagement than brand pages in social media, and so it's like it's a really powerful way of sharing, and it kind of maybe seems counterintuitive at first, but if you think about it a little bit more, the reality is that people want to connect with people. Individuals want to connect with individuals. They don't want to talk. You don't want to talk to a brand. You want to talk to a person. And so, really building out that executive channel is absolutely critical today.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Even now, after like in the post-corona world, like everything is digital nowadays. You don't get to meet anyone. So
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I would say that over the last 8 months, our business has grown. I mean, tenfold. It's been quite amazing. And I think that the reality is that in a world where, um, I think really what's happened during COVID is that acceleration that world that we saw shaping anyway, which is this kind of world of digital media, has accelerated dramatically. And so all of the plans that companies had before to do more online have become the only plan. And in that world, and obviously the online presence of the executive becomes even more important.
right, willingly or unwillingly, everything.
Exactly. Yeah, good point.
So how's your experience with remote employment? Have you ever worked remotely or managed a team remotely?
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating thing. So our developers, are kind of a split between in-house and we have a kind of offshore team. Most of them are in Eastern Europe. And we've kind of done that for development for years, really since the beginning of the company. What I think has changed now is, we went virtual as a company in March. Everyone is working at home right now. It's we reopened our office in July, so we have the offices open, but nobody seems to be going in. Everyone's staying home for now. I think that I'm really actually thinking about this quite a bit. I think there's kind of a shift that's happening, which is we now are having more and more of a digital or a virtual spine for the company, which is, everyone's using tools like Slack. We've got a suite of communications tools, our CRM. All of that can be managed virtually. Our platform itself, which everyone works in, also can be tapped into virtually. The challenge is that I think from a cultural perspective, you lose a lot when you're not with people, right? There's a natural cultural occurrence when we're all sitting in a room together. But so I think that one of the big things that needs to happen in a virtual structure is that you make extra effort to build culture and connection and cohesion through kind of virtual means. And so we've spent a ton of time and effort in doing that, actually.
Interestingly, you mentioned that nobody's coming to offices. So here's the look behind me. Can you see anyone?
Yeah. No. It's a perfect example. So I think that, as I said, our office has been open in New York since the middle of July, and I would say maybe one or two people go in. So it's a strange moment.
Absolutely. Every place is empty, even if it is open. It's
yeah, and we've hired. I mean, one of the interesting things is that we're hiring a lot. So we've grown a lot over the last 8 months, and we've hired, I don't know, maybe 30 people. And onboarding people in a virtual construct is a new experience for us, especially at scale.
Absolutely. So this is very interesting because what I see with businesses is that there are two kinds of businesses. One, who have been all working together in an office, and now they are working from home, right? So these are the people who knew each other very well before the pandemic. Even if they connect online, they know each other very well. They are well connected. They are in sync. But there are some businesses which are growing and they are hiring new people online now. So these people, you have not spent time with these new staff members you have around you. So how difficult is it to recruit, train, and get output from new people in the Corona times?
Yeah, no, it's an excellent point. With the people that you've been working with for a while, there's a kind of innate trust that you have. So what we found in the virtual structure is there's no loss in efficiencies. If anything, the company's operating more efficiently than it's ever operated before. But when it comes to kind of bringing on people, what I think, got a lot of press about was that you're reading about companies now that are moving away from having offices altogether. And you can see the money guys going, I'm going to save lots of money. I don't have to have an office and all those types of things. What I'm realizing, though, is that is the wrong way to think about this, which is you have to think about taking the money maybe that you would have invested in an office and really investing that in training and culture. And so we spend a lot of time in training our teams. And then we do a ton of stuff with when I said company culture, which is, there are a ton of virtual meetings. We used to have kind of like meetings where we would have like a shared speaker would come in. And so we're still doing those types of things. They would normally have been catered in the offices. Now we do them as, we send all of the folks kind of like, basically kind of like a delivery card that they can, order food from a local vendor, for the meeting. So we're trying to kind of mimic some of those types of things. We have there's a morning call every morning for the whole company. Anybody can come to it. It's literally almost like 15-minute water cooler type conversation. And so we're essentially kind of creating, in a way, like a synthetic version of that culture that you would see in an office. And through that, I think we're trying that allows us to build that trust with those new people that join. And so we'll see how it works. You know, it's all happening so fast. I don't know if we certainly don't know if we figured out the secret sauce yet, but we're trying to get there.
The morning 15-minute call, the water cooler call, that's very interesting because I tried it with one of my teams as well. It didn't work out very well. So how is it going for you?
You know, I have to thank the leadership team that we have. Certainly, they have taken an active role. We have our head of HR. She has really seen this vision of how we had to double down on culture during this time. And so we've just done a ton of things that might seem kind of silly to kind of your hardcore business types, but you know, we've invested in what is essentially kind of like a mindfulness app where we've given our employees access to a set of kind of online courses for mental health, where they can kind of meditate. They can do a lot of, you know, they can go through kind of exercises to improve their kind of calm, release anxiety, things like that. You know, the reality is that every person in the world is going through a really tough moment. And I think we have to kind of see this period as almost like living through a war. And so you have to realize that all your employees, all your prospects are kind of in a pseudo state of trauma, even if they don't realize it. And so it's very important that you kind of have high levels of empathy, high levels of support, high levels of understanding right now. I think that that's really kind of where as I said, we've leaned into that, and and our plans in 2021 is to even go further.
Right. So what are the biggest challenges working remotely?
I think the biggest weakness for virtual working right now that I can see is that there's a tremendous focus, like innovation focuses on efficiencies, not necessarily on kind of that let's get in a room and solve a problem type of scenario. So I feel like there's a little bit of that's lost. And so I've been very conscious of that. And so we've been trying to set up kind of like virtual meetings where people literally have to shut everything down and just focus on the problem. It's really hard for people to do in a virtual structure because you have access to 10 screens at the same time, you know? So it's like, I would say that the hardest thing that the thing that I see suffering the most is kind of like, you know, collective problem solving, almost like, you know, you see them in the movies where you have the guys from NASA that have to figure out how to land a spaceship or fix a problem. And that I think is tougher. Everything else is pretty good. I would say that, you know, because we've been growing so fast, we've ended up having to do a lot of teaching on the job, you know, while people are doing things. And I think that the fact that, you know, if you're in an office together, there's just kind of like that hearing what people are doing behind you or near you that you lose. The asking of a quick question that you might not do in a virtual situation. So those are the areas that we're trying to figure out better ways to deliver on.
So what I've seen is that tools have evolved in last 6 to 8 months, right? So what are your top 2 tools which you use in remote?
The top tools that I use on a daily basis outside of the Qnary app I think, for our business, we're using Zoom quite a bit. So Zoom, I would say, is kind of like the go-to product for any kind of web conference solution. We use Google Hangout as well. I would say Google Hangout is kind of or Google Meetup, whatever it's called, is our preferred kind of internal company meeting platform. But with clients, it's always Zoom. Those would be kind of the meeting ones. Where we use Zoho as our CRM platform, and we're really happy with Zoho. We've scaled that over the last year. And then in terms of other tools that we're using, we use so many solutions, so many technologies for really almost everything, every area of our business. I would say I'm spending a lot more time on platforms like LinkedIn. I would say that from a connection standpoint, the traffic on LinkedIn we've noticed has tripled over the last couple of months. So, so people are spending a lot more time there.
Right. So there are companies like Gaper who have been pushing remote for a long time now, right? Before the pandemic as well. And we have had experience with dozens of companies enabling their remote work environment. So how do you think Gaper can better benefit individuals and companies with the experience we have going remote?
Yeah, I think that we're at a step change moment, to be perfectly honest. I think that there was a logic behind most remote work for the last several years, which is that it was a relatively cheaper way of getting access to talent, so mostly developer talent. And many developers prefer remote work. So you have to kind of correspond with talent and what they want. But I truly think that the opportunity for Gaper and for other companies is to realize that remote work is actually not. I think it's almost the wrong term now. We're now going to be kind of entering in this world of kind of a new work, which is a work that actually is not fixed to one specific geography. It's going to be a completely different way of how you structure a company. The spine of an organization will not be based on a physical structure or an office anymore. It will have to be a spine of a business that's structured virtually. And companies like Gaper have a significant role that they can play in terms of how to support the hiring of those individuals, the cultural onboarding of those individuals, and then the ongoing needs of all of those individuals.
Yes, so that's where we put in most of our effort as well, because the change is imminent, right? And it's very interesting that previously what was called outsourcing is now rebranded as remote, because everything is remote, right? So things are changing very quickly for the world, and some companies are adapting very well, and some companies are taking some time to adapt to the change. But that's how, that's what the new world order is. So, Ben, thank you so much for being on our show today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Listening to your amazing experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been great to be out here.